93% of American children are spending more time on screens every day than they spend talking to their own parents. Not a little more time, hours more. And most of those parents have no idea it's happening. They think they've got it handled. They set up a few rules, maybe downloaded one app and figured that was enough. But quietly, in the background, the screens keep winning. And by the time most parents realize how bad it's gotten, months have already passed. I want to tell you about a mom named Rachel from just outside Columbus, Ohio. 2 kids, Marcus, 10, and Lily, 13. Rachel was a genuinely great mom. Packed lunches with little handwritten notes, never missed a school play, made Sunday dinners non-negotiable. She had parental controls set up, a no phones at dinner rule, and she felt like she was doing the right things. And then one Tuesday, Marcus's teacher called. He'd been falling asleep in class, not once, not twice, but consistently for 3 weeks straight. Rachel had no idea. Marcus went to bed at 9 every night. Lights off, room quiet. What she didn't know was that Marcus had learned to flip his tablet to the lowest brightness setting and pull it under his blanket. He'd been watching YouTube until 1, sometimes 2 in the morning every single night for weeks. And here's the thing. He wasn't a bad kid sneaking around. He was a 10-year-old boy who loved videos about space and Minecraft, and nobody had given him the tools to stop himself. That's not a Marcus problem, that's an information problem. And today we're going to fix that. If this is the kind of content you want more of, real practical parenting insight without the guilt trip, go ahead and hit subscribe. Every week on this channel, we get into the stuff that actually matters for raising kids in today's world. Now back to Rachel, because her story doesn't end there. It gets more interesting. Before we talk about tools and strategies, I need to make one thing clear, because this single point changes everything. Screen time is not one thing. When most parents hear the phrase, they picture a kid zoned out in front of cartoons. But today, screen time is your daughter doing homework on a Chromebook, your son texting a cousin, a kid watching a how-to drawing tutorial, another one playing an online game with friends, and yes, someone else mindlessly scrolling for 2 hours without realizing it. These are completely different activities. They affect your child differently, and treating all of them the same, either all bad or all fine, is where most parents go wrong from the start. The real work of monitoring isn't just tracking hours. It's understanding what kind of screen time, when, and what it's doing to your child's mood, sleep, and behavior. So before you touch a single app or parental control, here is your actual first step. Spend 1 week just observing. Not intervening, not punishing, just watching. When does your child reach for their device most? Right after school? The second they feel bored or anxious? What do they look like when they finally put it down? Irritable, withdrawn, totally fine. That 1 week of quiet observation will give you more useful information than any screen time report, because it's specific to your kid, not some average child from a research study. When Rachel started paying attention, really paying attention, she noticed something she'd been sleepwalking past for months. Marcus picked up his tablet within 10 minutes of getting home from school every single afternoon. And for about an hour after, he was snappy, irritable, and impossible to connect with. She'd always blamed that on a rough day at school. It wasn't the school, it was the screen transition. That one observation shifted her entire understanding of what was happening in her house. Now let's talk about tools, because yes, they matter. And the good news is, you probably already have access to the best ones without paying $1. If your child uses an iPhone or iPad, screen time is already built into the settings. It gives you a weekly breakdown of exactly how many hours were spent on which apps, lets you set daily limits by category, creates a downtime window where the device locks down at bedtime and requires your approval for any new app downloads. Most parents either don't know this exists or set it up once and forgot the password. It's worth 10 minutes of your evening to go back in and actually use it. On Android, Google Family Link does the same job cleanly. You get a dashboard view of your child's activity, the ability to approve or block apps remotely, and the option to lock the device straight from your own phone. That last feature alone is worth its weight in gold on a school night. But here is the part that most parenting articles skip over, and it is the most important thing I will say today. These tools are not the solution. They create structure. The conversations create understanding. You need both because a motivated kid will always find a workaround. Marcus did. Most kids do. That's honestly a sign of a creative, problem-solving brain, just pointed in the wrong direction. When Rachel finally sat down with Marcus, not to punish him, just to understand him, she found out something that stopped her cold. He was watching videos late at night because he felt anxious during the school day, and the videos were the only thing that calmed him down enough to fall asleep. He wasn't being defiant. He was a 10-year-old self-medicating with the only tool he knew. Once Rachel understood that, she could actually help him. They built a new bedtime routine together. She started reading with him for 20 minutes before lights out, something they hadn't done since he was 7. He was sleeping through the night within a week. 2 months later, his teacher called again, this time to say how much more engaged. Marcus seemed in class. The screen time problem got solved not by an app, but by a conversation the app made necessary. That's the whole game right there. So how do you have that conversation without your child shutting down immediately? Tone is everything. If you walk in with your arms crossed saying you've been monitoring their phone, you'll get a wall. But if you come in curious, hey, I noticed you're on YouTube a lot after school, what are you usually watching? And you get a completely different kid. Children are remarkably open when they don't feel like they're being prosecuted. Ask them what they love about the apps they use most. Ask how they feel after they put the device down. Ask if they think they're getting enough sleep. You will be genuinely surprised what comes out when they feel safe enough to be honest. One strategy that works especially well for kids between 8 and 14 is building what some child psychologists call a family screen agreement. Not rules handed down from the parent. An agreement where everyone contributes. You talk through things like when screens are allowed on school nights where devices charge overnight, and this one is non-negotiable. Devices should never charge in a child's bedroom. How much notice a parent will give before asking a kid to wrap up, and what happens when the agreement gets broken. When kids help build the boundaries, they feel ownership over them. They fight them far less. Marcus came up with his own clause. If he felt anxious at bedtime, he could come get his mom and they'd sit together for a few minutes instead of him reaching for the tablet. That was his idea. It worked because it came from him. Now, teenagers are in a different situation entirely. And I want to address that directly because the same approach that works with a 10-year-old will absolutely backfire with a 15-year-old. Teens are wired to push back against control. Hard limits and parental monitoring apps feel like surveillance to them, and they'll tunnel under it every time. With teenagers, the shift has to go from control to coaching. You're not managing their screen time. You're helping them learn to manage it themselves. This means being honest with them about what the research actually shows. How the dopamine loop works, how social media platforms are literally engineered to keep users scrolling. As long as possible, how chronic sleep deprivation from late-night screen use affects memory and mood. Teenagers respond surprisingly well to being treated like they're smart enough to handle the truth. Many of them already sense something is off. They just haven't had the vocabulary for it until someone puts it into plain language. Rachel's daughter. Lily was 14 when all of this started. About 6 hours a day on her phone. Rachel had avoided the conversation with Lily because Lily seemed fine. Good grades, seemed happy enough. But when she finally asked, using the same open, curious tone, Lily admitted something quietly devastating. She said she felt worse after she put the phone down than she did before she picked it up. Worse. She already knew it wasn't making her happy. She just never said it out loud because nobody had asked. Lily started using a self-monitoring app. On her own terms. She set herself a 2-hour daily limit on social media. She told her mom it was the first time in 2 years she'd felt like she had actual free time. She picked up drawing again, something she'd quietly abandoned over the past couple of years. Rachel said watching that happen felt like getting a piece of her daughter back she hadn't realized was missing. That is what this is actually about. Not the parental controls, not the screen time reports. It's about your child having a full life. A life where they're rested, present, and able to figure out who they are when nobody is feeding them content. The screens aren't going away. They're part of your child's world permanently. Your job isn't to fight that reality. Your job is to make sure your child grows up knowing how to live well alongside it. with real self-awareness, real boundaries, and a real sense of what makes them feel good versus what just keeps them numb. So here's what I want you to actually do this week. Tonight, go check whether Screen Time or Family Link is already active on your child's device. Then spend the next 7 days just observing. No interventions, just patterns. When are they reaching for it? What do they look like when they stop? By the end of the week, you'll know exactly where to start the conversation, and then have it. Not as a parent catching a child doing something wrong, as someone who loves them and wants to understand their world. That's all this ever needs to be. If something in this video clicked for you, or if you recognized your own kid in Marcus or Lily's story, tell me about it in the comments. What did you notice? What conversation have you been putting off? Every comment gets read, and honestly, hearing from real parents is the whole reason this channel exists. And if you know another parent who is quietly stressed about screen time, but doesn't know where to even begin, please send this video their way. Sometimes the most useful thing you can do for someone you care about is just say, "Here, someone already figured out the words. You don't have to sort this out alone."